Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Lahul ni'matu wa lahul fadlu wa lahul thana'ul hasan. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all the sincerest of intentions, the ability to understand and to do good, and the reward in the hereafter. Thereafter, this week's lesson and next week's lesson, we're going to look at some of the rules pertaining to fasting the month of Ramadan. Usually, I do this over 4 lessons. So this time round, I'm going to attempt to do it over 2. Most of you will have seen this information maybe half a dozen or more times. Knowledge, though, is acquired in stages. Okay, it's acquired in stages, which means that you need to take it more than once. You need to review the religious knowledge more than once to ensure that you understood it properly and so that you can retain it within your heart. So the month of Ramadan, it's the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. There are 12 months, okay? The 9th month is called the month of Ramadan. The first one is called the month of Muharram, and the last of them is called the month of Dhul Hijjah. I'm going to adjust something here. Sorry, this is high notification. Okay. So, the 9th month, as I said, is called the month of Ramadan, and it is the best month of the year. Just like the best day of the year is the day of Arafah, the best night of the nights of the year is Laylatul Qadr. As far as the months are concerned, the best month among the Islamic months from Muharram to Dhul Hijjah is the month of Ramadan. And it is a month of mercy, it is a month of forgiveness, and an opportunity for one to get salvation from hellfire. That is, a person can do good deeds that would lead to one getting a lot of reward, but also a lot of forgiveness from Allah the Exalted. The Prophet ﷺ, thereafter, he informed us that paradise, it has 8 gates. One of them is called Ar-Rayyan. And those who fast the month of Ramadan sincerely for the sake of Allah, Allah will enable them to enter paradise through the gate known as Ar-Rayyan. Thereafter, if they do a good deed, the reward is actually multiplied. This is a general rule, between 10 to 700 times over. Okay? If you have an intention to do a good deed, even if you don't do it, you get 1 reward, 1 hasan. If you do it, it's written as 10. This is the minimum. And it might be multiplied by up to 700. And this is in general. While in some situations, it might be even multiplied by 1,000,000. You might do one deed and it might be written as 1,000,000 hasanat, okay, or hasanas. Fasting the month of Ramadan, this is something that is very rewardable. The reward is multiplied, in other words, by even more than 700 times. Okay, the reward is very, 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 very great compared to if you were doing other good deeds. Thereafter, some of the scholars, they mentioned, like Imam Az-Zuhri, he mentioned that if a person was to say the tasbih once in the month of Ramadan, this is more rewardable than saying it 1,000 times. Okay, than saying it 1,000 times. In other words, the deeds that you do in Ramadan, they are more rewardable than outside of Ramadan. Okay, so one needs to take the advantage that we are presented with during this honorable month. Allah, the Exalted, knows best who among us will even be alive when the month of Ramadan starts. Right? That can come to us at any time. So we ask Allah to grant us the opportunity to see this month and to benefit from it, the true benefit. Many people, you will see that during this month of fasting, they are more occupied by the types of food and drinks that they are going to consume. This is the irony of it. And one of the local slaughtering places, slaughtering houses, I visited them and they said they normally slaughter around 11,000 chicken every day. Okay, he said we start at whatever it is, something like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and we slaughter through to like mid-morning or something. And he said we normally do 11,000 a day. He said, but in the month of Ramadan, it goes up to 19,000. Okay. He said in the month of Ramadan, it goes up to 19,000. People get to eat foods during this month that they do not get to eat at other times. In some Muslim countries, though, it's not like that. Their habit is to, for example, have coffee with some sweet corn, for example. And that's their meal. They keep it simple, even during the month of Ramadan. So during this month, the focus should not be what are the different types of fancy foods that we are going to get to eat, right? But rather, how much reward can we get? How much forgiveness can we actually get by fasting this honorable month? The Prophet ﷺ, he said in a Sahih hadith narrated by Ibn Hibban that some people, from their prayers, all they get is tiredness, and from their fasts, all they get is what? Hunger. They will fast all of those hours, and all they walk away with is hunger. They miss out on the opportunity to get the reward. They miss out on the opportunity to get the mercy of Allah and the forgiveness for the sins that they would have committed prior to that. Those sins that we remember and those that we forgot. Allah knows about what we did. Allah eternally knew what we would do before we even existed. Okay, let alone after we existed and committed whatever sins that we would have committed. So, as I said, there is an opportunity for a person to get a lot of reward, a lot of forgiveness, and great mercies from Allah, the Exalted. The Prophet ﷺ, he even mentioned that if a person fasts the month of Ramadan for the sake of Allah, in compliance with the rules of the religion, then the sins that they committed prior to that, that is the small sins that were committed prior to that, Allah will forgive them. Likewise, the one who observes standing on the night of Al-Qadr, Laylatul Qadr, something which we'll talk about in the future lessons, insha'Allah ta'ala. Thereafter, fasting the month of Ramadan is not something that was unique, or rather, let's mention it this way. Fasting as an act of worship, this is not something that is specific to this ummah. Rather, this as an act of worship, it was something that was found in the nations that went before this particular ummah. Right? People in the past, they used to fast as an act of worship. And the acts of worship are many. Reciting the Quran is an act of worship. Performing a salah is an act of worship. This particular act of worship, a person refrains from doing certain things. Many of the other acts of worship, you physically need to do something. Right? If you want to do Hajj, you need to physically do something. As-zakah, you need to physically give something. As-salah, you need to again physically recite certain things and do certain things. As for fasting, the month of Ramadan, it's abstaining. It's stopping doing certain things. And it is an act of worship. Okay, it is an ibadah that is highly rewardable. But it's not something that was specific just to this ummah. Rather, even the ummahs that went before us, they used to fast. What is special for this ummah, that Allah specified the month of Ramadan, the best months of the Islamic calendar, as a month of fasting. So fasting, it is among the greatest of obligations that a person can do. There are some obligations that are greater than others. The greatest and most important obligation upon a person is to have the correct belief in Allah and His Messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter, the next greatest act of worship that you can do is perform the obligatory prayer, the fard salah. This is the second greatest obligation that a person can do. Thereafter, there are three great obligations: fasting the month of Ramadan, giving the due zakah, and performing the Hajj pilgrimage at least once in one's lifetime. Now, fasting the month of Ramadan, it became an obligation in the second year after the Hijrah. Which means whilst the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Mecca, they were not fasting the month of Ramadan. After the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions, they migrated to Medina. The second year after that Hijrah, that's when fasting the month of Ramadan became an obligation. Therefore, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he fasted Ramadan how many times? 9 times before he alayhi salatu wassalam passed away. Okay, and as we said, previous nations though, they used to fast as an act of worship all the way from the time of Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wassalam. Fasting, it requires then for a person to go against certain desires to eat and drink and other than that, to abstain from that, to keep away from that for the sake of Allah the Exalted. And it provides an opportunity for a person to train oneself, because the year and our lifetime is not limited just to the month of Ramadan. Sometimes if you say to people, you need to put effort to do this, they say, oh, it's really hard, I'm struggling. But if you think about it, when the month of Ramadan comes, overnight, how many Muslims literally turn their lives around? Eating and drinking, this act that a person does so casually. On average, people, they have 3 meals every day and night, isn't it? Breakfast, lunch, and an evening meal, and a number of snacks in between. These things that a person does day in, day out, for an entire month, a person stops doing them. In other words, it is a reminder that if you put your mind to something, if you dedicate yourself, if you give it a certain focus, you're actually able to do it. Sometimes a person becomes lazy, but when you know you need to do it, you'll force yourself to do it. Okay? This month of Ramadan gives plenty of opportunities to remind yourself about that. If you put yourself, it might be said, under a certain strain and give yourself a certain focus and say that, look, I need to do this, even though the thing might not itself be an obligation. But if you say to yourself, I need to do it, you can make yourself do it. Just like, as I said, fasting the month of Ramadan, you start to fast, you make numerous changes overnight, and most Muslims, they would then maintain that for an entire month. So, as I said, it's an opportunity to train yourself for the rest of the year. And to enable you to think, this food and drink, do I really need it to this level and this quantity? If I'm able to fast the entire month, am I not also able to fast on Mondays and Thursdays, as it is sunnah to do so, and make that my habit? If I'm able to sacrifice during this month of fasting, can I not also sacrifice during other days, weeks, and months of the year? So that I can continue to benefit myself in a way similar to how I was benefiting myself in the month of Ramadan. So a person, as I said, they have an opportunity to become pious during this month and maintain that level of piety even after the month has actually finished. So thereafter, let us say something about the issue of the starting and the finishing of the Islamic months. How do we know that a month has started or finished? Religiously speaking, Ramadan, as we said, it is an act of worship, just like as-salah, namaz. You know that before you pray, you need to perform wudu, and you need to know how to perform wudu. It's not enough for a person just to say, well, wudu is something that means, like, I don't know, just tapping yourself on the chest, right? Or smiling or eating some. Wudu is not just some random thing. It's a specific deed, isn't it? It's not like you can call whatever you do wudu. Wudu is an act of worship, and it is a condition for your prayer, for your salah. The Prophet ﷺ, he informed us, okay, how to pray and when to pray. If I wanted to, for example, tomorrow's Fajr right now, can I do that? The answer is no. There is a start time and an end time for this act of worship. You will find that the acts of worship in general of this type, you need to know how to do it and when to do it. There is a particular manner in which you need to do the act of worship, and to do it during a specific time. That is the obligatory acts of worship in particular. Prayer is at a specific time. Zakah is given at a specific time. Hajj is performed at a specific time. Likewise, fasting the month of Ramadan. Okay? It's not just like the fast starts whenever I want, however I think. The month starts however I say, however I think. No, there are specific rules that tell us when does the month of Ramadan actually start. So here, to understand this issue a bit further, let it be known that the Islamic month, it has either 29 or 30 days. Okay? How many? Either 29 or 30 days. This needs to be well rooted in the heart. Okay? I want everybody to have this memorized. The Islamic month has either 29 or 30 days. It's not 28 and it's not 31. It's either 29 or 30. How do you know whether it's going to be 29 or 30 days? It's not just a group of people getting together and saying, you know what, this year we'll say 29. Right? Or the people in our town or village just saying, well, look, us guys, let's just get together and say it will be 29 or say it will be 30. Rather, the way by which a person knows whether it's 29 or 30 days is by referring back to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he explicitly said, as was narrated by Imam Malik, لا تصوموا حتى تروا الهلال ولا تفطروا حتى تروه فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَأَكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ ثَلَاثِينَ. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, do not start your fasting. Okay, لا تصوموا حتى تروا الهلال, until you see the hilal, i.e. until you see the new moon. وَلَا تُفْطِرُوا, and do not end your fasting until you see it, i.e. until you see the new moon. فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ, and if it is cloudy over you, okay, i.e. that's why you don't see it, because there are clouds or something else in the sky, like smoke or fog, that prevents you from seeing. Not that you just sit inside your home and you don't even go and look, right? It's not that scenario where some people, they sit at home and they don't even bother going and looking for the new moon, and then they give judgments and pronouncements as though that is sufficient for them to do, and it's not. A person needs to put effort so that their acts of worship would be valid. And citing the new moon for the other months, right? In general, this is a fardu kifaya. It's a communal obligation. Some Muslims in the community need to do that, okay? Throughout the months of the year. Because it's not just the month of Ramadan, this act of worship that is dependent upon it. And in the Eid, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, but also certain other things. The iddah of a woman, for example, who's been divorced, goes back to the issue of the lunar months. And there are other rules in the religion as well that go back to the issue of the lunar months. If you do not know when do the months start and finish, how will you then put into practice what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered with? So this issue of learning about how to know whether a month has started or not is critical. Thereafter, just to understand some rules about this a bit further. Okay, we'll start this and then we'll have a short break to pray al-Maghrib, and then we'll continue. The new moon, okay, how do you recognize it? This is what we'll talk about just now and then after the prayer in a bit more detail. The answer is that after the sun has set, okay, you look towards the western horizon, i.e. in the direction in which the sun has set. And in the northern hemisphere, i.e. in the northern part of the world, the new moon, it appears like a backward C. So you remember it like this with your right hand. You make this type of shape with your right hand. Maybe turn that light up as well. So that's how it is actually seen, with your right hand. The old moon, it's with your left hand. Okay? So the new moon, because sometimes a person, they might see that and they might see that. For them, they say, oh, that's the new moon. And actually, no. One's new moon and one is old moon. How do you know which one? The first thing is, you need to see in which part of the world you are living in. Because in the southern hemisphere, in Australia, the old moon for us, for them is the new moon. Okay? It's different. But for us in the northern hemisphere, so that basically means the UK, the US, the whole of Europe, okay, a large part of the Middle East, Pakistan, and these countries, okay, we are in the northern hemisphere. And what you do is you look where the sun has set and to a point a bit to the left of it, and of course above the horizon. This part of the moon, okay, imagine it's like an arrow, a curved arrow. It will point towards the place where the sun has actually set. Okay? You'll see that more clearly in the slides that are to come. Okay, so just to repeat that again, so the new moon, how do you know it? You go like this with your right hand. Okay, old moon with the left hand, new moon with the right hand. After the sun has set, on which day would you do that? On the 29th day. After the sun has set, the night has started. Okay? The night has started. The day has finished. That night that is then in front of you, there are two possibilities about it. Either it's the 30th night of this month or the first night of the next month. Okay? Some of this, if you're hearing it for the first time, it might sound a bit complicated, but in my experience, when I've taught 7-year-old children this and 8-year-olds, and at the end, when I've asked them questions like a quiz, they've got like 100%. It's rare that they don't all be putting their hands up and answering. Okay? But some things, if you're hearing it for the first time, it might feel a bit, it might be said heavy. But that's just the way that you acquire religious knowledge. You need to hear things more than once. So we said the month is how many days? 29 or 30. How are we going to know whether it's 29 or 30 days? The answer is you look for the new moon. This is what they're moving on to now talk about. How do you know whether it's going to be 29 or 30 days? The answer is you look for the new moon. When do you look for the new moon? The answer to that is that you look after the sun has set on the 29th day. After the sun has set, what do you have in front of you? Night. You're looking outside, it is night. Even though there might be a lot of light, the night has started. Okay? When the day finishes, the night starts. When does the night start? When the disk of the sun has completely set. That's when Maghrib enters. And night starts. Religiously here also bear in mind, night comes before day. Okay? When we speak among ourselves, this night now, so the day that's just gone, what day was it? This day that's just gone, Friday. If we were speaking normally among ourselves, what is known as in the urf, what would you call this night? We'd say Friday night. Are you going to come to the lesson, the Friday evening lesson, Friday night? I'll see you on Friday night. When you say Friday night, what do you mean? You mean this night now, isn't it? The night that comes after the day of Friday. However, when we're talking about the rules of the religion, so we're speaking now technically, then no. The night comes before the day. So this night that is starting now, this is what? Saturday night. And the day that's going to come next is what? Saturday daytime. So if this was the first night of the month, the next day would be the first day. So to go back again, after the 29th day has finished, the 29th night has gone. There was 29th night, then the 29th day, now the sun has set and you've got the night in front of you. This night, there are two possibilities about it. Either it's the 30th night of this month, in which case the next day is going to be what? The 30th day. Or it's the first night of the next month. How do we know which one it is? Is it the 30th night? Or does the month end at 29 and the new month now start and this be the first night? How do you know? The answer is by looking for the new moon. This is it. You cannot rely upon calculations by ijma'. Just as I'm going to go on to explain in the second half of this lesson. Okay? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned here in this hadith, do not start your fasting until you see the new moon. Okay? In other words, the month of fasting does not start unless you go to look for the new moon. Now, if you see it, you start fasting. If you do not see it, then what do? You complete 30 days. In other words, the moon might be there behind the clouds. What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَأَكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ ثَلَاثِينَ. Complete 30 days if it is cloudy. He didn't say calculate. He didn't just say you guys get together and see what the Imam of the masjid says or the mosque committee says. Right? He didn't say that. He said complete 30 days. This is the rule in the religion that was mentioned by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam explicitly. So, as I was saying, after the sun has set, the night is in front of you. That night is either the 30th night of this month or the first of the next month. If you see the new moon, it means what? The new month has started. In other words, the old month, when did it finish? On 29 days. If you don't see the new moon, therefore what? It's not a new month. Therefore what? It's the 30th night. Is that clear? Right? If you don't see the new moon, then it means it's the 30th night. If you see the new moon, then it means the old month ended at 29 and now the new month has started. This is the first of that particular month. Is that clear, everybody? Any questions up to there about what's been said?
No, what if you live on the equator?
Mm-hmm.
You said, the moon is right hand or left hand.
Mm-hmm. It's like a smiley face. It'll come on the slide, you'll see. So basically, what did I say here? Look. Yeah. So if that moon there, according to that, the sun sets somewhere here, right? In Australia, when they look at the new moon, it looks like that, and it appears to the right of the sunset. For us, the new moon is going to appear where? To the left of the sunset. In the southern hemisphere, it's to the right of the sunset. At the equator, where does it appear? If the sunset was here, directly above it, and it's like a smiley face. That part of it, as I said, is like an arrow pointing towards where the sun set. There's a slide on it, you'll see a picture of it. I mean, after the prayer, inshallah. Any other questions? Okay.
Do you see the old moon on 29?
Do you see the old moon on the 29th?
Yeah. Can you?
Theoretically, yes. Well, I can't see. I'm trying to see if I ever saw it on the 29th. Personally, I don't ever recall seeing it. But yes, you can see it. On the, it could be like that, and it could be a bit thinner. It could be a bit thicker. You could see it. Yes. Any other questions? Usually, when you get to that point, usually you'll be seeing this in the days before. You'll see in the other slides at 25, 26, 27, 28. But in theory, you could see it. You could see it. Okay, so let's stop there for now and let's perform Al-Maghrib and then we'll continue thereafter to speak. Those who are following online, they just have to and we'll maybe go pray as well. If you want anybody to make wudu, let them do that fairly quickly. The sisters, if you don't mind, if you want to come to that part of the hall.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله 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 أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله